Here we will be examining the HP40-145A Semiconductor Analyzer. In this second part of the series we will refurbish and adjust the internal 1345A display unit. As we saw in part 1 of this series, the display was quite poor. It had darkened edges and was dim and skewed. In order to fully adjust the display unit we must remove it from the machine. First remove the top cover, and shielding cover is described in part 1. Next we will remove the front cover by removing the 4 retaining screws. Remove the knob. Remove the faceplate and set aside. Remove the 5 screws on the top of the display unit. Remove the left rack bracket and side screws from the unit. Unplug the XYZ cables from the display unit. Unplug the ribbon cable from the A1 graphics display control board assembly. Unplug the intensity and focus control cables from the display unit. Slide the display unit forward. Unplug the power connector. Remove the display unit and place beside the main unit. Clean the board with vacuum and compressed dry air. Turn the display over. Vacuum the other side. Move the main unit onto its left side. Reconnect the power cable. Now the intensity and focus cables. Time for the obligatory warning. Warning: extremely high voltages appear in this module. Refer all servicing to qualified personnel. Power up. Note that without the ribbon cable connected we are presented with a test pattern. Power the unit down. Undo the 2 retaining screws at the top of the screen. Remove the retaining plate. The protective glass cover can now be removed. We can clearly see the buildup of dust on the display and cover. This is the cause of the darkened display. Clean the cover with isopropyl alcohol. Gently clean the display with isopropyl alcohol and lens cleaning tissue. We can see some further residue on the cover. This will need some additional force, but be careful as there is a non-reflective coating on the outside of the cover. Once clean and streak-free we can remount the cover. We can see here that one side is more reflective than the other. Ensure the non-reflective side is facing outward. Install the retaining plate and the 2 screws. Power up. Note the darkened edges are clear. First problem solved. We will now move on to adjustments of the 1345A display. We will be loosely following the service manual for these adjustments. Open the operating and service manual for the 1345A digital display. Go to section 5, Adjustments. Open low voltage power supply. We will be adjusting the 105 volt supply. This must be performed whilst the supply is unloaded. Power down, and wait for supply to fully discharge. Disconnect A3J3 the 105 volts supply to the A4 high voltage board. Disconnect A3J2 the voltage supply to the A2 vector processor board. Disconnect A3J4 the voltage supply to the A1 stroke generator board. Power up. Please heed the earlier warning. First check the unloaded supply voltages from the unit power supply. Connect your DMM ground to the chassis. TP1 is 16.99 volts. TP2 is -16.88 volts. And TP3 is 5.34 volts. These are high compared to the values stated in the manual. These are a guide only. Now we will check and adjust TP4. This is the supply to the A4 high voltage board. It must be 105 volts ±250 millivolts. It's high at 105.729 volts. Adjust R10 to get the voltage into spec. 105.06 volts is well within spec. Power down, and wait for supply to fully discharge. We can now restore the supplies to the A4, A2 and A1 boards. Power up and check the loaded supply voltages. TP1 is 15.32 volts. TP2 is -15.54 volts. TP3 is 5.08 volts. And TP4 is 104.8 volts. These are okay, and within spec. We will now move on to testing the A4 high voltage board. Go back to the service manual for the 1345A digital display. Open high voltage power supply. We will be adjusting the cathode voltage to -2450 volts. Note that a 1000-to-1 voltage divider is required for this task. If you require information on building an adjustable 6 kVA divider, leave a message in the comments. Power down, and wait for supply to fully discharge. For this test we put the display on its side. Attach the high voltage divider probe to the yellow cable connector of the A4 high voltage supply board. Attach the ground of the probe to the chassis. The voltage divider outputs connect directly to the DVM. Power up. We note the cathode voltage is high at -2333 volts. Using an insulated adjusting driver, rotate A3, R20 to obtain -2450, ±100 volts. We adjust to -2448 volts, well within spec. We will now move on to adjusting the display. We will follow section 5-13, pattern adjustment. 5-13-A, intensity cutoff. Turn the intensity control on the front of the unit all the way down. This is the trimmer underneath the measuring lead. Locate R131 on the A1 board. This is the intensity cutoff. Adjust this trimmer until the brightest dot is just extinguished. You can now readjust the intensity trimmer to see the image. Moving on to pattern adjustment. 5-13-B, vertical and horizontal gain. These adjust the size of the displayed image. Create a cardboard template measuring 112 mm by 85 mm. Locate R105 on the A1 board. This is the vertical gain. Place the template over the screen. Adjust R105 until the height of the test pattern is just obscured by the template. Locate R87 on the A1 board. This is the horizontal gain. Adjust R87 until the width of the test pattern is just obscured by the template. Moving on to pattern adjustment. 5-13-C, trace a line. This adjusts the image skew. Our display is in need of this. Locate R160 on the A1 board. This is the tracer line trimmer. Adjust R160 until the test pattern box runs parallel to the display bezel. That completes the pattern adjustments. We will move on to section 5-14, stroke generator adjustments. 5-14-B, course writing speed. Locate R70 on the A1 board. This is the writing speed adjustment. Adjust R70 for the 7 line segments, ensure even size and spacing. Moving on to stroke generator. 5-14-C through G. These ensure lines drawn are parallel. Locate R36 on the A1 board. This adjusts the lower 2 boxes in the test pattern. Adjust R36, ensure the lower 2 boxes are drawn parallel. Repeat this procedure for R30, ensuring the top 2 boxes are parallel. Repeat for R8, ensuring the left 2 boxes are parallel. Finally, perform this procedure for R1, ensuring the right 2 boxes are parallel. Moving on to stroke generator. 5-14-H through L. These ensure the horizontal and vertical lines meet at the extremities. Locate R48 on the A1 board. This adjusts the left vertical line extremity of the test pattern. Adjust R48 so that the left vertical line meets the end of the top horizontal line. Repeat this procedure for R39, so that the left vertical line meets the end of the bottom horizontal line. Repeat for R11, so that the top horizontal line meets the left vertical line. Finally, perform this procedure for R20, so that the top horizontal line meets the right vertical line. That completes the stroke generator adjustments. We will move on to section 5-15, stroke generator intensity adjustments. 5-15-B and C, stroke generator adjustments. Locate R56 on the A1 board. This adjusts the horizontal lines ensuring equal intensity. Adjust R56 so that the intensity of the horizontal lines of the small boxes are equal. Locate R65 on the A1 board. This adjusts the vertical lines ensuring equal intensity. Adjust R65 so that the intensity of the vertical lines of the small boxes are equal. That completes the stroke generator intensity adjustments. We will move on to section 5-16, focus adjustment and resolution check. 5-16-1, adjusting the Z-axis drive to plus 40 volts. Note that this is an updated procedure documented in the 1985 revision of the service manual. Power down, and wait for supply to fully discharge. For this test we will attach a lead to the A4 high voltage board, put the display on its right side. Place a test cable clip onto test point 2. The other end connect to the scope probe. Attach the probe ground to chassis. Put the display back on its bottom. Ensure the probe is on 10:1. Set the scope to 2 milliseconds per division, 10 volts per division. Power up. Turn the intensity all the way down. Now adjust the intensity back up slowly until we read 40 volts peak to peak. This is the setting we require for the following tests. We will move on to section 5-16-2, focus adjustment procedure. For this procedure we need to activate the secondary test pattern. Place a shorting jumper onto A2 vector processing board J6. The location is on the back of the display next to the ribbon cable. Power up. Note the secondary display is now visible. Place scope probe 1 onto the A1 graphics display control board, on test point 10. This is the baseline voltage for the X and Y focus offset. Note the base voltage on TP10 is around 7.1875 volts. Place a second scope probe on test point 9 to monitor the Y focus offset. This is the Y focus voltage test point. Set the scope to 2 volts per division, 5 milliseconds per division. Locate R138 on the A1 board. This adjusts the Y focus offset. We need to adjust R138 so that the base voltage matches the base voltage at test point 9, 7.1875 volts. Move the second probe onto test point 11 to monitor the X focus offset. Locate R135 on the A1 board. This adjusts the X focus offset. We need to adjust R135 so that the base voltage matches the base voltage at test point 9, 7.1875 volts. Disconnect the probes from the A1 graphics display control board. Power down, and wait for supply to fully discharge. For this test we will attach a lead to the A4 high voltage board, put the display on its right side. Place a probe clip onto the A4 high voltage board, test point 1. The other end connect to the scope probe. Put the display back on its bottom. Attach the probe ground to chassis. Set the scope to 20 volts per division, 5 milliseconds per division. Power up. Locate R147 on the A1 board. This adjusts the focus fine adjust. Adjust R147 for baseline voltage of 50 volts. We can see our baseline voltage is quite low at 23.1 volts. Adjust to exactly 50 volts baseline. We will move on to section 5-16-2, F and G. For this test we will make an adjustment to the A4 high voltage board, put the display on its right side. Adjust the A4, R42 for optimum focus. You should be able to see the lines that make up the boxes of the test pattern. Adjust the intensity adjustment on the front of the unit. The focus of the pattern should remain the same throughout the full range of the intensity. We will move on to final parts of section 5-16-2, H and I, X gain and Y gain adjustments. Locate R142 on the A1 board. This adjusts the X gain. Adjust R142 so that the left and right edges of the test pattern are in optimum focus. Locate R145 on the A1 board. This adjusts the Y gain. Adjust R145 so that the top and bottom edges of the test pattern are in optimum focus. This has been an exhaustive process, but it is now complete. Before we put the unit back together, vacuum and clean the keyboard with dry compressed air. Restore the display back into the main unit. Assembly is the reverse of disassembly. Don't forget to remove the jumper on rear of the display unit. Fire up the unit. We have a perfectly aligned and crisp display. Let's perform a graphics self-test. Press extension. Press option 8, diag from the menu. Press 3, graphic test. Perfect, we have a perfectly aligned pattern with the 2 dim strokes bottom left. In the following clips we will be rebuilding the power supply and demonstrating the general usage of this amazing piece of equipment. This completes the clip. I hope you found it informative. Thank you for watching. We will be producing a number of upgrades to this unit, so stay tuned for further clips in the series. Please subscribe, like and comment. Your feedback is important.